Hello and welcome to the No and Iron podcast with your host Lily Busby. This week I am joined by the Honorary President of the Unionist Youth Network, Jay Basra. Jay is a member of the Ulster Unionist Party, but in this episode we will chat about Jay's experience as a young person in politics and the role young people have in the future of Northern Ireland. So firstly, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm from Cookstown, from Mid-Ulster really, and I've always had an interest in youth politics. I'm involved nearly 3-4 years now. I'm not exactly too sure anymore, but time flies when you're having fun, and I've been involved with the Ulster Unionist Party 3 years and with the Unionist Youth Network just over a year now, I think.
And you've run as an MP candidate for Mid-Ulster. Now the general election's over, how are you feeling?
I felt very happy that I had the opportunity to run, and I think I was one of the youngest candidates across Northern Ireland, which is another positive for young people, because I want to see young people join and get into politics and see they have a representative that they can vote for that's a similar age and has a similar experience. It's different, especially when the young people went through COVID and they had those years where they were off school. It was detrimental to their mental health, and you sort of need someone that went through that, because I think people don't exactly know that when you're developing years, you were stuck in a house for so long. It's very different from an adult who had it as well, because you were social and going to school, and a few weeks later you were off by yourself. It's very daunting and very difficult.
And as a young person, what was the election process like?
It's very, I could say it's very outdated in some ways when you're putting up forms and stuff like that. It's the form and the sort of admin behind it is quite daunting when you're writing it for the first time, because there's so many things you can write that are wrong and you have to go back and forth, and we had a few issues too, but it seems outdated in the manner of the calling out the vote and stuff like that, but I'm sure it'll get better. I think they did modernise this time with a few forms, but that led to a few issues as well, because those forms didn't go out right. They were Google Docs.
And you received some racist messages online, and you said to the other media recently that you hadn't faced much racism before stepping into politics.
No, I wouldn't say I have faced many outside of politics. I'm from a rural area, so we're quite close-knit. Nearly everyone, and there was never anything never said, because they grew up with me and sort of knew who I was. But when you start in the politics, people weaponise that as a way to degrade your opinion and say you can't have an opinion because of your race or whatever, or your lineage. And I got some of threats as well, which I don't really care about too much, but you get them anyway. Realistically, the threats are nothing. They're just cowards being cowards,
Was that a worry for you? Did it bring up any feelings of concern about your personal safety?
Not really my personal safety. I live in an area which would be fairly safe, but the likes of the threats, they're just people on the internet, and realistically they're from accounts that are probably set up by 12-year-olds with nothing better to do with their life, and it's not exactly something that worried me.
And how does it make you feel that some people, maybe not in your own community, but in in Northern Ireland, how does it make you feel that some people in your own country would attack you, not about politics or criticise you about politics, but about your race?
It's just concerning that has happened, but it always has happened. If you look at the history of politics, it's happened before to politicians who've been involved in that, and I think it does speak volumes that some will weaponise that as a way just to bring you down and stop you from engaging in politics, and the only way to tackle that is to carry on. There's nothing else you can really do.
And what do you think these sorts of actions look like to other young people? Do you think it'll put them off politics?
It certainly would put anyone off politics. Young women are put off politics because of some abuse that young female politicians get on the internet, like Cara Hunter and a few others like Carla Lockhart. People won't step foot in the political arena if they're going to be subject to that public abuse in the public square. A lot of young women would do that, and a lot of young men wouldn't be able to get into politics in case they're associated with something they didn't want to be associated with. It's a whole range of things. Young people wouldn't want to be involved in politics, and getting abuse and getting threats does not help that.
And what role can young people play in the future of Northern Ireland?
Well, the future citizens in Northern Ireland for the start, and we need to sort of have jobs in place and an economy that can suffice them. There's no point us saying, well, it's Northern Ireland, we can keep it for ourselves. We have to sort of ensure that they are getting jobs, they are getting the education they need. Even if it is that we start moving away from pushing them towards university, but to the technical side of things. I think it's happening now in schools. They're pushing them towards the tech. They do higher level apprenticeships, which are, I think, higher level apprenticeships are in high demand. There's low quantity of them, and there's people out there who are going into just regular jobs without any basic training or a higher level apprenticeship. And if we could focus on that and allow those jobs to be created, we could get a better skilled workforce and move on from that. We also have to have a political system that does allow that, to have a continuous government that has continuity rather than government that stops and starts every few years. And we never have anything straight. Our legislation is usually 5 years behind or 10 years behind England, Scotland and Wales. We have to make sure we are keeping up with the rest of the world and not sort of isolating ourselves and becoming a sort of Ulsterisation of things, just staying behind things.
And some may argue, I've spoken to other young people involved in politics before in this podcast, one of them mentioned about a fatigue amongst young people. Do you think that's something that you would see as well?
I think there's a lot of apathy. Young people, they don't really want to be part of politics, they don't understand it. Like when I ran, I got a young people voted for me, a lot of young people didn't vote for me, but the young people voted for me and they didn't really understand. They thought I was running for council, they thought I was running for MLA, and I was like, no, running for Westminster and all this stuff. But a lot of young people were sort of interested in the fact there's a young person running, and it was great to see, because otherwise they wouldn't have voted, because they realistically didn't see any point in voting, because they think it's just another grey-haired old man or woman that's just came here for votes. And I think we have to show them that politics can work and can deliver stuff. Like youth politics as it is, it's a very niche group of people and isn't always representative in Northern Ireland, and we see youth politics quite frequently. If you are involved in politics, but if you're outside of politics, you never see anything like that. You don't associate it with politics, you don't really care about it. Because I know I was in a YMCA group a few years ago, and there really wasn't, no one really knew what it was. I didn't know what I was applying for really, but it was nothing I'd never heard of before. But that sort of opened my eyes to youth politics, and trying to bring people along with you. They might not really have an interest in it, so it has to be palatable to them.
And is there anything that you think could be done to encourage more people to get involved in politics?
I would say better education on the level that it has to. Yes, get some sort of mandatory education, be it through citizenship or LLW, that you're taught what the stormont system is and how it works. Because people who don't understand the system tend to figure they sort of take it on a high, or they misunderstand it, and that sort of forms a political opinion. But if you understand how the system works, and it is quite difficult if you're not really attuned to politics to understand it, and if you understand what the parties stand for as well, it does help, because people understand there's a multitude of parties, and only two parties they think of is Sinn Féin and DUP. Other than that, they need to look at that, because that puts them off. You look at the two main parties and they don't really seem to achieve much in a few years. People sort of think, well, there's no real other option to vote for. But if you educate them on who they can vote for, they can see a better turnout as well in elections from younger people who really want to see a difference in politics, but sort of have to make a difference.
And what would you say to those people who would think that?
I would say that they need to sort of research what they're going to do, because it's the best way. You can just look it up on the internet, but it's not always the best source either, because you get different news articles, you get Wikipedia pages. But if you read what the parties are about, and it has to come to the parties too, that their information is accessible. It is quite difficult to find manifestos from a party that you don't always see, and I think if you look at the UP one, you get one from 2005. So it does show you have to be sort of, they've come at a stage of the age where people use the internet and they have to upload that stuff there so they can read it. They can see their policies and stuff, because frankly there's parties that don't even know their own policies, and they go out and they ask for votes, and some of the candidates don't even know. So it does show that sort of a greater sort of sense of information and education is needed.
And this is a bit of a quick question that I just thought of now. The way the manifestos are like really long pieces, like almost like PDF booklet type things. Do you think there's anything as from a young person's insight that could actually enhance that and make it more digestible for younger people?
Well, I would say probably a short video would probably go through it a lot better with graphics. I think my manifesto doesn't have very many graphics, but I would say it would be more digestible in that route, because I think if you're reading through that, you sort of get lost among yourself and reading it. You would sort of need something smaller and digestible. You can have a major policy booklet, no one will ever read that, but you need something small. Someone can look at it and say, well, this is what they're going to do, this is what they're going to stand for. And I think you can see it best in some of our, like the likes of Robin Swan's canvas, or was it postal leaflet. He had information about our policies a lot more succinct than our actual booklet, so we sort of need something like that's succinct, like a small video or a graphic, like or slideshow, something like that you can watch and you can sort of take in. It's easy to read, and it's not just a pile of pages, because it's also not accessible in that way as well. For someone who can't, no visual disability or something like that, you sort of would need an alternative to that.
And do you think AI has a role to play in engaging young people?
I think AI as a whole in the run has a way to play for as well. I know obviously AI is very popular on TikTok nowadays as well, so I think it obviously can be utilised by the political parties just in a way just to be more engaging to young people who are watching.
And there's a lot of people that would argue that unionism is divided, but do you think people have some misconceptions about the situation?
Unionism, I wouldn't say it's exactly divided. It's not, and it's always been sort of split with its parties, but realistically I think it's been from a long reign of things. Unionism was united for a very long time in the 70s, and it changed from there, and really then we have never had that sort of same unity. But there has been times where unionist unity has came together, and there are misconceptions about unionism and what its backbone is, like especially with loyalism. Loyalism has a lot of misconceptions, as Joe Brawley's pointed out, which I'll not get into. But unionism, it's divided in the way it is by the parties. People have different opinions, and that's the way it is. We've a lot more different opinions, and it comes from different cultural and religious backgrounds as well. There's certain different social issues taken up by different parties, like the DUP and TUV from the Ulster Unionists. The Ulster Unionists, being the older party, has a conscious vote, while the DUP and TUV don't have conscious votes. They have party, policy and social issues. The Ulster Unionist Party still has the old conscious vote that was used years ago. And there's differences even between that. It sort of has changed the geography of politics here, especially within unionism. It is different from what it was 20 years ago and 30 years ago. It is changing, but the future of it could be completely different. We don't really know. With having all trans unionism represented now at Westminster, it possibly can give us a lot more benefits, and having a more full picture unionism, like independent unionists, TUV, DUP and Ulster Unionists. Like I think we've never had that in recent years, to be fair. But it's positive to see that we have that now, that we can sort of move forward that way, but we still have to see what we're given.
And do you think that sort of perceived division, do you think that could confuse a lot of young people?
I know a lot of young people actually don't vote anymore because there's that many different parties. People talk about having one party, which I think is an aspiration by some, but I don't think we could ever have one party anymore. There has to be two at least, just for different issues and stuff like that. But I think young people don't vote because they don't know what the Unionist Party stand for, and I think that's quite fair enough to say that parties do come across the same in certain areas. Like west of the band, there's virtually no difference between Unionists. They all have the same similar social views and economic views. That there's no difference there. When you cross into the east, it's different. And it is a divide. The divide in unionism really is east and west now, rather than anything else. Political parties aside, like Unionists, west of the band nearly have all the same views, just different party label. East of the band is a different case, and I'm from west of the band and I've seen it firsthand. Unions in east of the band is very different from west of the band, and the issues there lie in our history and lie in culture as well. And the history that's not going to really change in the distant future. Like there's still old wounds that are there, there's still tension and there's still division.
And you've mentioned in the past that we need to be looking to the middle ground to move forward. Can you tell me more about that?
There's a lot of people who are undecided, especially young people, and you sort of have to convince them why. To show them your reason for it. It's more than just saying unionist or a nationalist. You have to show them why they want to remain in the UK, what the benefits are, what Northern Ireland can achieve. It's not focusing on what England can give you, it's what Northern Ireland can achieve by itself. There are things we can do that can make Northern Ireland better. It's just getting party consent. There's some that don't want to see it like that, and there's some that will oppose stuff like that, but we want to see Northern Ireland in a position where it's stronger economically, stronger within the union, and stronger just overall in general. We have to build on that. It'll take time. It's not done overnight. An issue I've seen now with people who want constitutional change, they just sort of take your benefit and say, well, we can have that in Ireland, and if you join us, we can fix it here. So that's not going to work like that. You can't sell us a bag of empty promises, and that's what the issue I'm seeing, and people will back and defend that, so we can have that there too. You ask why is it not already there already? And you can't really get an answer then, but it's just trying to describe things to people and saying what there needs to be.
And what sort of attitudes do other young unionists have toward the government now that it's returned? And I'm also interested to hear your thoughts about how you think a Labour government will impact the future of Northern Ireland for everyone, as well as young people and for unionists.
Well, I think there's young people, especially west of the band, I think there's no point in storming because it's not delivered for them. There's a lot of apathy. People don't think there's any point really in our politicians going there because they don't really seem to do much. I think that is an issue too. Like realistically, legislation's passed through recently hasn't seen much unionist consent, or if it has been very little. People don't really report on that, and I think people think that nothing happens up there. And I was talking to a few people the other day about what we did, because I work for Tom Elliott, he's chair of there, and we were doing stuff regarding their legislation, and like they never realised it was ever happening. They didn't know the consultation had occurred. They didn't know the result of it. So it does show people don't really know what's happening in our politics, and they don't sort of just goes turns to white news when you hear Stormers mentioned. And I think people just sort of forget about it. They vote every year or every few years for them, and that's about it. And they don't really get much in return. You do have some politicians who are very good at working on the ground, but that sometimes lacks of their Stormont sort of work ethic as well. So you can get either or, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult to see what young people really want to see from our politics, especially young unionists, because a lot of them are demoralised in what they've seen in politics, because unionism is fighting its every other day, and it just sort of divides things, and leaves them in the position where they don't know what party they ever want to join. And I'd say, to be honest now, if I was a young unionist, maybe 3 or 4 years younger, I wouldn't know what party to join. I wouldn't know where to look. There's not really any of them are calling out to you. And that's what I want to see, is change. Parties are taking the focus on young people, because they've been forgotten for 30 years. There's been no interest in it, and honestly, they've been left their older councillors and older MLAs to do the job, and they really took anyone on to sort of come through the ranks.
And do you think there's enough young people in the room?
Well, I would say there needs to be more young people on a branch level, because I think there's 2 young unionists in my association. I agree to the other one, and there's not enough young people in the room to give discussion, but there's not enough of them know the meeting's happening, and there's not enough of them know what they can actually achieve. People are skeptical, and they're they're not very sure they join a party or not. They're not sure if they really want to commit to it or commit to its beliefs. It is that difficulty. You never know if they really want that or not. So it's trying to make sure that they have that voice that can go forward. And I know youth politics exist, like the likes of the NIU Forum and other things like that, but you always can get easily lost among a crowd of people, and your idea can be twisted and turned. But if you have the opportunity to speak to a political party directly, there's a chance you'll be listened by one of the legislators. That's what I think I've always seen, is that always the positive ways to go straight to legislators rather than mess about with a youth group.
And as someone who's got their voice out, you were basically in the front page of the Irish News the other day. What would you say to anyone else who is interested in getting in politics and is seeing your voice get out there, but also the negative aspects that you perceive? What would you say to them who are witnessing all that?
Well, I would say I think you only ever appear in these groups for negative reasons. This is what I've found out. I don't think there's any positive article I've ever been in, but I do think that if you do look at politics and you research what you want to do and you research the party's position, you join the party and go from there, because it gives you a good platform to work off. I have a lot of connections in my local area because of the party I'm in and from people I've met, from what different things I've been involved in. Before I've been involved in too many things. My schedule was that hectic at the moment. I don't know where I'm going. That's not the right way to go about it, but if you really want to, you can get your connection out there, you can get your voice out there. It's just falling in the right group and following the right people that can give you that voice. You can make a connection either in a youth group or anywhere else, but I would say a political party is the best way, because they are the legislators after all, and they can work out for you.
And what are the main takeaways people should take from this episode?
I would say just get your voice out there and to join a political party, because it's the only way I think you can actually get your opinions across. And one way you can sort of influence legislation is if you have your voice heard by a local MLA, and they'll listen more maybe to a party member than they would some random person on the email. I think it's a sad fact of reality, but I think it's quite true. I think another thing to take away is that usually in the papers for a negative reason, it's never really a good reason, you publicity.
And final question, drawing away from politics, what does 2024 look like for you?
I'm not exactly too sure. I'm hoping it'll be quiet in the end of the year. So 2025 is probably a lot more busier, but I'm hoping this is maybe the end of the hectic schedule, but I doubt it. The dark nights come along and get a lot more meetings, what I always say. So I'm hoping to go back to uni and finish the rest of my degree and go from there.
And do you think you'll step back into politics, run for another position, or?
Well, we'll definitely run for the Student Council of Queens or Students' Union very soon anyway. I just sort of run for everything. I can do whatever I can and go from there. Not really stepping back in politics. I'm still involved. I'm still involved in the association. We're going to try our best to try and re-exert ourselves on the ground with different events and stuff like that, and grow the association and branch membership that way. And
that's a good thing. The trolls never win. You're keeping on determined.
Oh yeah, they only feed into me, to be fair. I enjoy it, to be fair. At the end of the day, it keeps me going at the end of the day, these trolls.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Till next time, stay tuned and we'll talk later.